I am a big God of War fan. I only recently came into the series because I did not grow up with a PS2. I didn't get a PlayStation until the PS4. So, around the time that I made my first Ultimate PS2 video, I started playing God of War because I heard great things about it. And actually, even though he's a bit of a sore subject on YouTube now, the completionist and his videos were the reason why I wanted to play the entire God of War trilogy series. I shouldn't say trilogy, but maybe that gives a little foresight into my rankings here. I have played every God of War game beginning to end, not 100% of them. I'm not a completionist. Like I did with the Metroid series, I'm going to be ranking all of the God of War games. But I guess in the Metroid one, I only did 2D Metroids because I haven't really played that many 3D Metroid games. Anyways, here is the blank tier list, and we're going to go pretty much in order. You'll see, but pretty much in order. My special order that I kind of played the games in, but enough jibber jabber. God of War, the original, 2005. This is honestly one of my favorite games of all time now. But this game just looks awesome. The story as like its own solo story, not thinking about the rest of the series, it is phenomenal. It stands on its own legs. This didn't have to be turned into a series to be as good as it is. And I just genuinely love the story of this first game. And I think it's the reason why I fell in love with the series as a whole. I'm not really one for like blood and gore, if I'm being honest. There's a lot of things in these games where I'm like, ew, especially when we get to God of War 2, we'll talk about that. But the story of this game is just honestly really sad. Kratos, our main character, is a decorated war veteran. He is one of the strongest in all of Greece. And he was so good at war. He killed so many people. Kratos had made a deal with the god of war that we know, Ares, and basically just made him an even better, more powerful warrior. And in turn, Ares kind of made him kill his whole family. And it's really sad. He was just so bloodthirsty as this new overpowered being that Kratos didn't even realize he was raiding his own village and killed everybody that was there because he had to do what Ares said, and Ares forced him to kill his wife and daughter. He didn't know until after they were dying that it was his wife and daughter. Originally, I didn't really feel that bad for him. It was just like, okay, well, he still did it. It was his actions that got him in the situation, but it is still a very tragic story, and it's a heck of a way to start a series. And so this game is honestly, the rest of the main original trilogy is him getting his revenge on not only Ares but all of the Greek gods. And in this game, he is fully going after Ares because he has gotten way too powerful, and he's actually getting help from the other Greek gods like Athena to help take down Ares. And spoilers, if you haven't played these games, Kratos takes over the mantle of the god of war because he is our titular character, and he's now the god of war at the end of this game with a really cool shot of him sitting on the throne. But the game as a whole kind of just hits everything for me in a game that I love. I love puzzles. I love using my brain to try and figure out puzzles, as well as just good fighting mechanics. And as we're seeing here, there is a lot of puzzles like this where we have to figure out how to traverse the room, or honestly like a whole city, kind of in the style of like a 3D Metroidvania. And I don't know, it's just really cool. I'm gonna have to skip this part. There are things in the original, well, pretty much all of the Greek games that are not appropriate for kids. It looks like the gamer Kratos did censor the gameplay, not very well, but still, yeah, there's a little bit of an inappropriate factor in these games. I don't think it's necessary at all, but that's a very 2000s thing to be like, yeah, violence, gore, women. Like, that just screams that era of media for guys. So it fits, and there's a reason why you don't see this stuff anymore coming from the God of War games. And it very much slowed down after like the second God of War. There's still that kind of stuff in the games to come. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to skip past this. But the puzzle parts of it are just so much fun to me. There are some very good puzzles in here that I had to look up multiple different ways of how to actually figure it out. Because there was a couple times where I spent hours on single puzzles and I'm like, okay, I give up. Tell me how to do this, please. But as a whole, I really, really enjoy traversing through the puzzles in this game and all of the games in the series. But the other like core thing for me is the gameplay, the fighting mechanics. I absolutely love that there are combos like a fighting game. They're not like super complicated Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat level combinations that you need to know for the final kill and whatever, but having different moves available by triple pressing a triangle or square, or then doing a square, triangle, square, or whatever, doing a roll into this, it makes the game so much more fun. It's not just me spamming triangle or square if I want to do a light move or a heavy move. Like I actually have strategy when I'm swinging arguably the coolest weapon in all of gaming, the Blades of Chaos, doing grabs and all of this stuff. Like it is some of the best fighting mechanics in a video game, in my opinion. And it is those combinations and different ways of using my blades that keeps me interested in a hack and slash game like this, where there are just endless waves of enemies. There are some points in the series where I did get a little tired. I'm like, all right, there's a lot of enemies here. I'm getting bored. But for the most part, that was mostly because I played like a bunch of them back to back to back. So I was just like pretty much only playing God of War for a couple months. But if I'm sitting down to play one game at a time, not trying to blast through the entire series in one sitting, I'm not going to get bored of it because of the many different ways to fight in this game. And for the first game in the series, before it even evolves more, this really is a solid foundation for the fighting mechanics. I absolutely love this game in pretty much every facet. I don't know if I really have any complaints. I will say that I did play this on the Steam Deck originally. I had not done a full playthrough on a PS2 or the PS3 for that matter. I started trying the HD version through PS5 and doing like the game streaming on PS Plus. So I don't really know the difference between PS2 and PS3 of this game. I imagine that the PS3 version is better. Emulating the PS2 version, phenomenal. Playing the PS2 version on an actual PS2, phenomenal. I think the only thing that I really have to complain about it is like the tightrope walking is not great. It's inaccurate and annoying because it just wants you to fall off constantly and it's not essential to gameplay. So that was annoying, but I think that was something that was fixed in the HD versions. I could be wrong because again, I haven't really played them. But if I played like 5 minutes of the HD one, I could probably get to a tightrope walking place because that's in like the first 5-10 minutes of the game. Anyways, that's a very minor complaint for the entire game of God of War 1. And we'll finally actually put up God of War 1. My mouse is laggy, but we're going to put God of War 1 in S tier. I mean, come on. Did you expect anything less after all the talking that I just did? I've been recording for 15 minutes, and all I've talked about so far is the first game. I love this series, and especially this first game, so obviously it's an S tier. And again, I just want to say, the rankings for these games are not based off of all of the games. This is within the confines of the God of War series. So if something is D tier, it doesn't mean it's a D tier game. It's just D tier compared to the other God of War games. Okay? We good? We understand that? A D tier game in this list could be an S tier game overall when comparing it to every game everywhere, you know? But we're talking within the God of War series. Okay? Cool. God of War 2. This is just a bigger and better version of the first game. They really stepped it up in this game. The cinematics, the different like battles like this There's nothing else like this in the rest of the series. Flying on the back of a Pegasus, wings on fire. I'm assuming this is Pegasus. Yeah, this is a Pegasus, and they're fighting what, dragons, griffins? I don't, a griffin. That looks like a griffin. Oh, quick time events. I didn't even hit on those. I like the quick time events. You know, they're good. They're not overused in my opinion. But anyways, God of War 2 is a better game when you boil everything down. Like I said, it's bigger, it's better, it's got new weapons, it's got crazy cinematics, it's got a really cool storyline because now Kratos is realizing that it's not just Ares that was bad, it's all of the Greek gods. So he wants revenge on everybody. He's going to take down every last god in his universe or die trying. Maybe both. Who knows? So this game starts you off with his revenge, going after each god individually, starting with some of the smaller gods. And then at the end of the game, this is kind of why it doesn't hit as hard for me as the first game does. Because this is a part 1 of 2. God of War 2 and God of War 3 are essentially Infinity War and Endgame. They are 2 parts of the same story. You can't have one without the other. And so, even though Infinity War is my favorite MCU movie and I pick it over Endgame, I do not pick God of War 2 over God of War 3. The reason why I liked Infinity War is because it ended on the note of, oh no, the good guys lost. This doesn't happen here. It is a very cool ending. I will not spoil it, but it is a very cool cliffhanger for this game, as well as Infinity War's cliffhanger. But this is like a heck yeah moment for Kratos at the end of this game. And I guess it's gonna be hard for me not to spoil it. So I'm just gonna spoil it because I'm gonna have to talk about it in God of War 3. But this video is going to be full of spoilers, so you've been warned twice. Kratos can't do this on his own. These gods, even though he is now a Greek god himself, he has the powers of Ares, so he's even stronger. He cannot defeat the gods alone, especially because I believe it's in this one. Zeus immediately takes his powers from him at the beginning of this game. Zeus kills Kratos essentially, but then just takes his powers and he has to build himself back up. Kind of like a Metroid game where Samus loses everything in the beginning of the game, and that's why you get to start over and find all the abilities again. But without his Greek god powers of Ares, he cannot kill every last god on his own. So by the end of this game, he has enlisted the Titans, which, if you don't know anything about Greek mythology, the Titans are basically the parents of the Greek gods, mom and dad of the Olympians. And so while they have been banished by Zeus and the other Greek gods, they're just down in Hades, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I played God of War 2. And so Kratos goes down there. And at the end of the game, he is riding on the back of Gaia with all of the other Titans to go kill the remaining Greek gods. And it is an epic send off. One of the, if not the final boss, I can't remember, is really disgusting. I don't like it at all. It is absolutely disgusting. If you play that game, just warning, there's a large boss towards the end of the game that is absolutely disgusting to look at. But anyways, and while I did say this game is pretty much better in almost every way, it just still doesn't hit as well because the story is not over at the end of this game. So to me, while it is a very good game, and because, again, this is within the confines of the God of War series as a whole, this is not a slight on God of War 2. I'm debating putting it in S because I do think it is an S tier game. I just don't want to put everything in S, you know? Because the next game we're going to talk about, it's going to join the S tier. God of War 3. God of War 3, quite possibly my favorite game of all time. You start off at the end of the last game, at the end of God of War 2, riding the back of Gaia, and we are tasked with taking down, well, I mean, we're not tasked, we choose this for ourselves. We are taking down Poseidon. This game just is immediately throwing you into one of the coolest boss battles of all time. It has to be the coolest start to a video game I think I've ever seen. Yes, it is part two of a two-part video game story. And so it's able to just jump right into the action. Not to pull too much from the MCU here, but it's kind of like how the beginning of Endgame, you're immediately punched in the gut by watching Hawkeye's family disappear. This is more action based, and that was just more hitting you in the feels. Speaking of pulling no punches, well, I'm not into gore. It's not my thing. This game is brutal. This is probably one of the most violent video games I've ever played, I've ever witnessed. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of it, thankfully it's a video game, so it's not as disgusting. But man, just like the action of this game, the scale of this game. We just zoomed out. We are on Gaia, a giant tree woman that's basically the size of a freaking planet. This is the PS4 remastered version, which is also what I played. So I don't know if the PS3 version of God of War 3 was like broken or anything. As far as I know, this was just such a phenomenal game that they had to bring it to the PS4. And of all the PS3 games, this has got to be the most deserving. I haven't played a ton of PS3 games, I will be quite frank, but this is far and away the best. Not to discount any other PS3 games, but take it with a grain of salt. I am a huge God of War fan. This game has some of the best puzzles in the series. It has even bigger and better set pieces. It's got better story. It's got the best story in all of the games. And the ending is phenomenal. We'll talk about it in a second. The game mechanics are, again, another step up. The fighting gets even better. There are more weapons at our disposal that we get along the way. It is trickled down to us. By the end of the game, we have like 4 different weapons and a bunch of different move sets. The Blades of Chaos are still the best in this game, in every game, even in the later games. I just always like playing with these freaking blades, man. They are so cool. And there are a ton of boss fights that are all just so cool. Like going back, like Poseidon is such a great start to this game because it's such a great boss. Have I talked about the puzzles being some of the best in the series? Like this puzzle, especially. This puzzle, this like end to this part of the game, so good. I don't want to just like explain away the entire game of all of these games, but this game, I just love it so much, man. And you really do need to play 1 and 2 to really fully appreciate God of War 3. But like just looking at how that just broke apart there, and that hopefully gives you a sense of how mind-bending and cool this puzzle was for this part of the game. Absolutely love the puzzles of this game. And then you have the fights like against Hercules. I believe that's in this one. If it's in God of War 2, I apologize. The stuff with Pandora and how Kratos is really trying to redeem himself as a father, trying to get that back, even though it's not possible. His family's gone. It's a really, really good story. And in the end, he kills every last Greek god there is. It's just him. And even then, he's dead. The fight between him and Zeus that we're watching right now, it doesn't end here. He does end up getting Zeus, but at the cost of seemingly his own life. It is an ambiguous end with him seemingly dead, being washed away into the ocean. And I honestly, everything's gone. All of Greece is underwater with no gods to control it because within Greek mythology, all of these gods have different jobs. And now that he's killing all of them, Poseidon's gone. So the oceans are washing away civilization, and all the other Greek gods are gone. So all of their jobs are not being done. And all of civilian life, all of human life is just being washed away. And it is the end of the world because of what Kratos is doing. So is it the right thing? No. But is it a cool story? Absolutely. I don't really know what the moral of the story is here. There are good lessons learned in these games, in this story, along with some great action, great puzzles, really just emblematic of what the series is as a whole. It is the perfect God of War game, in my opinion. It is a great ending to the story. and I just love it. So I'm going to put it over at the top game. It's arguably one of the best games of all time. It's quite possibly my favorite game of all time. It's hard. There's so many good games out there. It's hard to choose a favorite child. But now let's take a step back, talk about some games that aren't so good. We're going to go back to the PSP games. We've got Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta. I like these games. Again, we're ranking these within the confines of the God of War series. Neither of them really hit home for me. There are some points within Chains of Olympus in the story that I really love. The whole thing with his daughter and him having to fight back the idea that his daughter, he's in Elysium and his daughter isn't real. He is being tricked. She is not there. She is gone. She is dead. If he stays here, mission's over. Because this is back, like, I think it's between 1 and 2. Could be wrong in the timeline of things. And it's a really sad moment, but that's really the only memorable moment that I have with this entire series is that cutscene towards the end. I really don't even remember what the end fight is like. I don't really remember what the gameplay as a whole is like. It's a PSP game. It's fine. I could not play this on PSP. I tried originally playing this on PSP. It hurts my hands. I do not like playing on the PSP with that stick. D-pad games are fine. Now that I'm an adult, it's not comfortable. And I never grew up with the PSP, so I don't know if it was ever comfortable. I probably would have dealt with it. I dealt with the SP. I would way rather play the SP over the PSP. Just realized that very similarly named. But playing a full scale God of War game, I mean, it's not full scale because it's pretty much half of the time. It's only about half as long as every other God of War game, but it's still a good game. Like, I only ever had the PSP God of War games to go back and play. I'd be fine with them. They still have a great sense of scope. They are still fun, but do not play them on a PSP. Instead, I played this one on the PlayStation Vita. And even then, I didn't really enjoy playing it on the PS Vita. I recommend playing this on the PS3 HD remakes because you get both of the PSP games in one disc and you can play them on a home console and they look really good. This is the HD version. I don't think you should skip them. Don't skip these games unless you don't have access to them. But I also wouldn't start with these. I would not end with these. These are not the best games in the series. I do think that they're good, they're solid, but I don't really remember anything other than what I've talked about in the story. And while I did think that the story at the end was pretty good, it's just not the best God of War game. So I am going to take God of War Ghost or Chains of Olympus and put it in. See, like I still want to put it in C. I want to put it in C tier for now. We might adjust these rankings later. And for that matter, I'm going to go ahead and put Ghost of Sparta right here because in Ghost of Sparta, I feel pretty much the same way. It's a PSP game. Don't play it on the PSP. Probably shouldn't play it on the PS Vita. It's a little bit better than playing on the PSP. Play it on the PS3 version. It's much better. It's going to look really good for a PSP game. It's still not going to be as good looking as the rest of them because it was originally a PSP game, but it does feel like a PS3 game. Both of these games feel like a PS3 game when you're playing the PS3 version. Playing the both of them combined will take about as long as the other God of War games pre-PS4. So they are worth playing. If you were going to only play one, I would say play Chains of Olympus. I don't think Ghost of Sparta is really a necessary game. It's kind of a prequel, or is it a prequel? I really don't even remember the story that well. It's just okay. It is the okayest game of the series. It has decent action. It has decent gameplay mechanics. It feels good to play as long as you're playing it on the PS3. But even then, I'm not that big of a fan of the DualShock 3. The cutscenes could definitely be better because they're originally PSP cutscenes. But it's just okay. It's skippable. It's more skippable than Chains of Olympus. From what I remember, Ghost of Sparta is about Kratos' brother. His brother was killed early on because the Ghost of Sparta was the legend of Kratos, but they thought that Kratos' brother was the ghost of Sparta. So the Greek gods killed him originally, not Kratos. And if anything, they turn Kratos into the ghost of Sparta because they killed his brother. And I honestly don't remember what happens at the end of this game and what the final resolution was. So yeah, that's why I'm putting Ghost of Sparta at the bottom here, pretty much. God of War Ascension. People really don't like God of War Ascension. And it came out at a time where we just talked about 5 different God of War games from the PS2 to the PS3. Within like 7 years, we had 5 different God of War games. And while 3 of them were some of the best games in PlayStation history, 2 of them were not so great, the PSP games. They were okay. But then we just get God of War Ascension after the end to the story in God of War 3. This came out after the fact. And this is a prequel to the entire series as a whole. It is the earliest game in the timeline, and it's kind of just a nothing burger. I don't remember really anything about the story. I don't think it was necessarily bad. It was just not memorable. The gameplay was good. It is better than the PSP games, in my opinion. And since I ended up playing this most recently of all the games, I did play it last. I played every single other God of War game before playing this. But I did take quite a long break between playing all the other games and then this one. It was about a year or so, probably over a year between this game and the God of War game I played before it. So I didn't have that fatigue that everybody else had back when this game came out. So I really don't mind this game at all. It's fun to play. I'm more willing to play this again over the PSP games. Honestly, I may never play the PSP games again. If anything, I might play Chains of Olympus again, and that would be because I haven't played the PS3 version of Chains of Olympus. I've only played the PS3 version of Ghost of Sparta, and I would be like, yeah, I guess I should try it in the PS3 version. I don't really have a desire to, though. I wouldn't say I have a desire to go back to this game, but it's got some cool set pieces. One really cool set piece I think is arguably one of the best set pieces in all of the God of War games. This is one of the coolest set pieces ever. This statue of Apollo is so cool. A little over halfway through the game, we get to traverse this giant statue that just towers over everything. It's just so cool to me. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like, look at this wide angle shot from behind us, and all we can see is the man's foot. It's huge. And there's so many different rooms within the statue. And like the rest of this game is within the statue. The whole ending boss fight and everything. It is so cool. So I think that while Ascension's story probably wasn't the best, that it may not have been worth telling, it is a game worth playing if you've never played Ascension. I understand the frustration and fatigue of God of War at the point in which this came out. It was just unfortunate timing. It's really not that bad of a God of War game. But one of the things that I haven't really talked about since like God of War 2 and 3 is, while yes, the gameplay and the fighting mechanics are still good here, and there are more different abilities that you get throughout these games, even the PSP games and Ascension, it's just, they aren't as like memorable as God of War 2 and 3. And it's still kind of the same gameplay loop. So I can see how it gets boring to some people after you get to the 6th God of War game. You're like, okay, we're just doing more of the same here. But I think if you just excluded PSP games and you played Ascension with the first 3 games, this is not a bad warm up at all. As much as I love the first game, this is arguably better. You know, it's got pretty good graphics. It's got great gameplay. It has great puzzles. So I guess really what I'm trying to say here is I would like more people to give this another shot. Now that we're like, 3 years out from God of War Ragnarok, if you haven't played Ascension, or if you haven't played it since it came out when everybody was ragging on it, give it a shot. Have an open mind. You'll probably enjoy your time. I know I did. And I played this on my PS5 through the game streaming thing. So, I mean, honestly, I had really good internet when I was playing it, so I wasn't having any lag issues. And I really don't notice input delay that's that minuscule. If I had worse internet connection, I'd probably rather play the PS3 version of it, but I just really don't like the PS3 controller. Anyways, I'm going to put Ascension up in the B tier. It is better than the PSP games. That's about all I have to say about that. Next up, we are finally into the Norse mythology realm of the God of War games. God of War 2018 or God of War PS4, whatever you want to call it, the rebooting of the series where we last took off in the story 3 games ago for us. Kratos was pretty much dead. A lot of people assumed he was dead at the end of God of War 3, killing the last Greek god and pretty much ending all of humanity. We still don't really know how he shows up in this game. At least I don't remember if they even touched on that. But now he is a Greek god among the Norse ones. And instead of the Blaze of Chaos, he now has Stormbreaker. At least do they call it Stormbreaker in this game? I don't know. I'm just talking about this guy right there. I'm calling it Stormbreaker because that's what it's called in the MCU. It's a cool axe. I'm not gonna lie. It's fun to use. I love being able to throw it around, but just nothing can replace the Blaze of Chaos for me. I love that weapon way too much. But Kratos, he's aged. He is a much older guy. He has given up his hateful past, and he's really just trying to live a new and completely different life as a calmer, less angry that he should have been from the start. In this new world, he has found a new wife who tragically dies in the very beginning of this game. He has a son, Atreus, and he's just trying to protect his boy. But he ultimately is still kind of angry in this one. Not the same kind of anger you see in the original trilogy. He is definitely a more mature Kratos. The Leviathan axe, that's what they call it in this game. Okay. The Norse god Balder is trying to kill Kratos and his son. I don't honestly remember why. It's been a while since I played this game as well. But they don't like each other. And this game is Kratos and his son trying to stop this. And in the end, they kill Balder because he is the big bad of this game. And Freya, Balder's mom, who we befriend in this game, gets very angry with us for killing Balder, and that sets up Ragnarok. I'm like very much oversimplifying the story here because it is a much longer game than anything else in the series thus far. And it is also played very differently. And one of the reasons why I don't really care for the newer God of War games as much. Let me be clear here. I still love these games a lot. These are still phenomenal games. But again, in the scope of God of War, they're not as much favorite. The fighting mechanics are a lot different here. You do still have different moves that you can play. You get different abilities throughout the game. You get different weapons to use. And even the Blades of Chaos make a comeback about halfway through this game. But it's just not the same. The combos and stuff, it's not all there. I love being able to flick the right stick to dodge. And now that we're in a world with cameras, and that's what we use our right sticks for in pretty much every video game now, we can't really use the right stick to dodge. I loved being able to flick the right stick to dodge, and you don't get that opportunity here anymore. You have a dodge button instead, and you can still dodge in like different directions, but it's just not the same. Being able to flick, just quickly move your thumb over to flick the stick, dodge out of the way, and you're back over the face buttons to do more combos, kill more enemies. I just prefer that gameplay style a lot more. And one of the first things that we looked at in this gameplay when I started talking was a giant troll. And there are way too many of those in this game. That's kind of what this game got ragged on for. A lot of people hated the repetition of how many trolls we had to take down. To me, I didn't really feel that way until I saw memes about it after I had played all these games. And it's like, yeah, okay, there's a lot of trolls here, but it didn't feel like that bad. I was really engrossed in the story, so it was fine. And honestly, these games are like movies, especially the latest two. I would really love to see all of the God of War movies as. See, I keep saying movies on accident. I would love to see all these games as a movie. Maybe forget the PSP games and Ascension. Don't need to include those, but like the original trilogy and then these two games would be awesome as movies or a series on like HBO or whatever. Like it would, I think the stories really, really hold up. But I don't enjoy the gameplay as much in this game. I prefer the Greek games in story as well, but I also do like to see the maturity of this game. Like it's not as like overly violent and overly grotesque in other ways as the original 6 games were. So as a whole, the series matured a lot between Ascension and God of War 2018. And I think that was a good path for the series. But I still think you could have the original trilogy and the other games still be good without the grotesque things about the original games. I think you could clean them up more in some like new remakes. And I think that those would outshine the Norse games as good as they are. Like the writing is phenomenal. I love Mimir. Oh my gosh, he's my favorite character in all of this. That all the little side characters, literally the little ones. I'm blanking on their names right now. But if it weren't for the story, I don't think I would like this game as much. But that being said, these games are still so good, all of them. And I'm going to put God of War 2018, if I can find my mouse, right over. Come on, there. I'm going to put it in B tier, just ahead of God of War Ascension because of the story. Like, story in God of War 2018, better than Ascension. But Ascension's gameplay, the mechanics, I like it more. So there's my ranking there in B tier. And because Ragnarok and 2018 as well, because these stories are so good and still relatively new, I'm trying not to dive too deep into the story. I don't want to spoil anything, even though I kind of did spoil the ending of 2018. These games have some of the best stories in the series. I still think God of War 3 and for that matter, God of War 2. Okay, all the original trilogy are really good stories too. Man, I just love these games, man. But I think Ragnarok has a really good story. And since it is still new as of the past 5 years, we're still on this generation that it came out in. I'm not going to spoil too much of it. But the gameplay feels so much better than God of War 2018. I absolutely love it. Everything here is pretty much upgraded from the 2018 game. There are jokes in this game about the previous game that are funny. Like God of War 3, it has one of the coolest openings in a video game. You may have been spoiled by this. I hope you haven't, because whenever you do go to play Ragnarok, if you haven't played it already, I really hope you get the same like awestruck feeling that I had when you witness that part of the game. It is very early on. It is so cool, but it was such like a viral thing that you probably saw a meme of it on like TikTok or Instagram or something. It's really good. And again, I don't want to spoil too much, so I'm not going to focus too much on the story, but the story is just a better continuation of the first game in this series, 2018 game. And the gameplay is better, the controls are better, but it still lacks the old controls that I love so much from the original trilogy. I don't like this spear, just so we're clear. This is probably my least favorite weapon in all of the God of War games. And I don't really care for playing as Atreus, but it's not as bad as other games where you're forced to play the lesser character or the non-title character. And his story in this game is really good. It's so much better than the whining baby he was in the first game. Mimir is still fantastic, still my favorite character in the series. In the newer series, Kratos is just too good of a character not to be my favorite overall. And one of the things that's really cool about Ragnarok, recently Santa Monica Studios came out with a free update to add a whole other thing of gameplay to Ragnarok. It is free DLC, and it is like, it probably should have been paid DLC. It was, I will admit, very hard, too hard for me to really want to sit through. It was totally blanking on the style of gameplay that it is, but it's like Returnal. It loops over when you die, but it's like meant to loop over. You can't just beat it in one run. And it loops without spoiling anything. It connects the original trilogy story to the Norse mythology story together. It gives you a fuller picture, and it kind of shows the newer characters more about Kratos's history in it. I watched like all the cutscenes after. I was like, you know what? I'm probably never actually going to beat this part of the game. So I watched all of the cutscenes, and I really enjoyed it. I wish I would have been able to actually play it and get all of the cutscenes and really live it firsthand, but it's very hard, and I'm not that good of a gamer. I casually play video games, okay? I'm very competitive, but I'm just not that good at games. So, anyways, I feel like that's about as much as I can say. I've been sitting here like pausing for long amounts of time trying to figure out what I should say about Ragnarok without spoiling it too much. And so I'm just going to end it there. I really like Ragnarok, but at the end of the day, I don't know. It's tough between these two. I think I'd still put it here just because I like the original trilogy so much more. This is how I feel about the series as a whole. Again, bunch of these are S tier games compared to every game in existence. But within the series as a whole, God of War 3, then God of War 1, into 2, and Ragnarok, 4, Ascension, and then these guys. That's just how I feel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. How would you rank the God of War games? Have you played them all? Have you played Ascension? Do you think it's crap, or do you agree with me that it's really not that bad? I still did rank it kind of low though. I also think that this is one of those series where you should absolutely play the games in order. I would say the way that you should play this series in order is God of War 1, 2, and 3. Then probably you could either go into 4 and 5 or do the PSP games and then God of War 4 and 5 and then go back into Ascension after you play 4 and 5. Just so you have that breakup of going from old style to new style, and then you can go back to the old style and see maybe you do enjoy the new style of gameplay more. Maybe you're like me and you're like, yeah, the new gameplay is good, but it's just not as good as it used to be. That's my thoughts on the God of War series as a whole. Actually, you know what? All the games suck. God of War Betrayal is the only game you should play.